and welcome to yet another episode of Solfate Podcast, where we interview builders and founders in the Solana ecosystem. And we have one of our first, I guess this is our second repeat guest, right?
Vibhu was our very first guest ever.
He was our very first guest ever.
Very first.
He's our second repeat guest. And and we've got some really cool news actually. So first things first, let's talk about DRiP and or Vib and the episode, and then let's talk about our news.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you know DRiP. You probably know Vibhu.
You know who DRiP is.
Exactly. Vibhu sent me this plant up here. You might not be able to see it. My fake plant. And yeah, DRiP is one of the fastest growing startups in the Solana ecosystem, and debatably all blockchain ecosystems. Immense growth so quickly.
It's probably fair to say that it's like the largest, at least like consumer facing
absolutely
application in crypto, right? I think, there are other metrics where you could argue something is bigger, but in terms of like a consumer facing product, I think DRiP might be it. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. I mean, like, consumer facing doesn't even encompass it all. Like, they're doing so many very cool things. One of the things we talked about is their new mobile app, and how they're going to launch their new mobile app for the DRiP platform. They're going to migrate away from the current way that people interact with DRiP using their typical wallets, where the mobile app is going to have a wallet system built in. There's going to be a transition period and all that kind of good stuff. We get into all the details, and we also talked about like kind of the challenges of growing a business like DRiP and what that looks like to build something that is so consumer focused that they're not a blockchain company. They're not a crypto company. It's a consumer application for everybody, not just blockchain native people. And some of the issues of like how they're tackling those issues. And like, I love talking to Vibhu.
Yeah, Vib is awesome. He just has like incredibly practical takes on things.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, huge shout out to him and to his entire team. I think they're doing phenomenal things over at DRiP. Speaking of DRiP though, we have some big news. Do you want to share the news? Do you want me to share the news? Please share the news.
I'll share the news.
You've been way more. You're the reason it's happening. So please.
Welcome to the Solfate DRiP channel. This, like, a Solfate podcast, a Solfate brand officially has a DRiP channel at the drop of this episode, which is amazing. And I think it's perfectly, it works out perfectly that our episode with Vibhu and DRiP is going to be our very first episode that gets published on DRiP, which is, I know, it's so meta. It's like a full circle. I love it. And
if you're listening to this right now, you should go over to DRiP because this is the first episode that's on there.
Yes, you should.
So you should go ahead and try to collect that ASAP. Actually, will it have already dropped? Is it too late?
Yeah, we'll put out a teaser. This is part of the teaser.
We'll figure it.
You should check out the DRiP channel. Just saying.
Nice. I like it.
I'm super excited.
I am too. And look, I don't think either of us knows exactly what this is going to look like. Audio on DRiP is a relatively new thing. And so we are thrilled to be part of this experiment, trying to figure out a new medium on the DRiP platform. Nick has done just a ton of work interacting with the DRiP team and trying to figure out like how this is going to work and how we're going to integrate. I'm sure he'll continue to sort of iterate on what that looks like. And we'd love for all of you to follow along. Right. So like go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to involve as many people in this experiment as possible. And obviously give us feedback on Twitter and like all the channels where you can reach us. But this is going to be fun. It's going to be a good time.
It's going to be so fun.
All right. Yeah, and before we dig into the episode,
do you got shout outs? No, I was going to say shout outs.
Shout outs. Let's do shout outs. Phantom, as always, is the preferred wallet of the Solfate ecosystem. We love Phantom.
Focus that time.
In the same way that we're, raving about DRiP over here, like we rave about Phantom. We love Phantom. Also, I wanted to just do a quick shout out to, for my dev shop Unboxed. If you're looking to build something in the Solana ecosystem or really any, web application of any kind, please reach out. We would love to help. We actually have some bandwidth. I mean, I actually don't know if the bandwidth will be open by the time this airs, but we do have some bandwidth right now as I'm recording this. So please reach out and let's see if there's a good partnership and we can make something work. We'd love to build whatever it is that you need built. But anyway, thank you for being a listener. Let's see, what else?
Please leave a review. Leave a review in your favorite podcast app. We love feedback. Tweet us on Twitter, whether it's our personals or the Solfate Pod Twitter. Give us feedback on the episodes, and if there's things that you want to see, then let us know. I love feedback. I am a feedback hungry machine. Sounds kind of weird to say, but yeah, you know what I mean.
All right,
let's get to the episode.
Let's jump into the episode. Let's do it.
Nothing in this podcast is or should be considered financial advice. Any opinions and thoughts expressed are solely those of the individual. They do not represent the opinions of any entity. Enjoy.
I feel like you've had some accusations or whatever from people on Twitter the last few days, or at least from your tweets, it sounds like you're defending some stuff. What's going on?
Well, I mean, people have been saying stuff about us since the beginning of time. What's new? What happens is like one person will, tweet something nasty, and then it gives everyone else that's kind of feels the same way space to share their own nastiness. So it's normal. I'm used to it. It's completely pointless. There's it's these are like mostly keyboard warriors, who have never used the product. It's hard to find someone who's actually used the product who has something negative to say about it. It's almost entirely people that's never log in or don't understand it.
It's like weird to me that there's anyone who has pushback against DRiP. Like it seems
especially if they've never used it.
It
doesn't make sense.
It seems like such a weird thing for people to fight about because to me it seems so obviously like a great. I mean, it's the largest distribution channel for like Web3 artists and creators, as far as I know, right? So it's just it seems like such a weird thing to pick a fight about.
Yeah, this time it's DRiP being accused for creating spam on Solana, and DRiP itself doesn't spam anybody, but many people use CNFTs to spam people's wallets.
How is that DRiP's fault?
It's not. It's not. It's not logical. It's not. It's fine. It's really is based on misunderstanding our user experience. Like, we don't spam anybody. You have to subscribe to receive collectibles from us. And if you don't like it, you can click the unsubscribe button on the bottom of the site and burn your NFTs, and we're out of your life. So it's like, if you don't like it, the remedy is really simple, but calling it spam is just not true. It's just not.
All right, let's dive into some conversation, I guess, other than, people saying things about DRiP that are clearly ill-informed about not understanding the product or anything. I think most of our listeners are, we've done an episode with you before around the Solana Spaces shutting down time frame, and if any of our listeners don't know who DRiP is, what DRiP is, or I'd be very surprised. But one of the things I was curious to talk to you about is what's new with DRiP. So it was about a year ago, give or take, where you were on the show last time. So what's new with DRiP? What's going on? Maybe any alpha about that mobile app coming out soon. Super excited for that. We've been seeing all the screenshots that Andrew likes to share, and they're looking good.
Yeah, I'm going to have to listen to that podcast again at some point, because you caught me, I think, right before we made the announcement public, right?
Yep, it was right before.
You'd literally come out of a conversation where you were like, we're for sure sunsetting this thing. It was great timing for us, probably terrible timing for you.
Yeah. I'm curious what I said about DRiP at that time, because I think we didn't necessarily have all the angles figured out where we were going to go. Yeah, I mean, we've the product is pretty different nowadays. I think the heart of it is similar, which is accessible collectibles starting at free. But nowadays, like we have many creators on the platform who are building their own distribution on it and building relationships with their fans using digital assets in this kind of novel way. We also have a lot more built-in monetization in the platform now. So back a year ago, I think we were kind of punting on monetization, saying we're going to be able to monetize an audience, but just not sure exactly when and how we want to do it. So in December, we kind of launched this thing called Droplets, which is started out as a kind of anti-fraud tool for us, and then transformed into like an economic tool. And those two things tend to be like kind of on the same barbell, if you will, or axis. And yeah, we have a lot of creators who make a living now with DRiP. They create music, they create art, they create videos. They give it to their audience. Their audience donates to them and helps them continue their creative pursuits. It's really a beautiful thing that's kind of building around DRiP. I think we've stood out in Solana in a whole bunch of ways in the last year. One, by remaining hyper accessible and kind of free. Two, like we've been resistant to liquidity cycles in a way. Like we came through in the bear market. We're growing a lot, grew through the emergent kind of like conditions that we're living in right now, which is like very bullish. And I think I say that in spite of many other things in NFTs not going so well. Over the last few months, DRiP has been really a lighthouse in a way. We've been really pushing the boundaries of what's possible in Solana, technically speaking. Solana a year ago was a lot more affordable to use as a user, and for DRiP especially. As the price has gone up, our infrastructure costs have gone up and up, and meanwhile we're growing super fast. So we've also been kind of on the vanguard of maybe some of the dealing with scaling challenges within Solana today. And we are making inroads with a lot of other blockchains as well. I think the origin of DRiP was like super Solana maxi kind of brand voice. Like the Solana Spaces account was like diehard. I mean, that was my voice basically. That was like diehard Solana. Over the last year, we've transformed our presence and our brand to be elevated above those kind of things. I think we are super cross-chain. So we have a lot of creators and users coming from ETH, but also many of the other alternative L1s out there. So that's been an interesting part of the journey. Yeah, I don't know. It's like two different worlds. A year ago to today, it really is. But the vision is similar. I mean, the vision is getting the NFTs in the hands of many, and I still think that we're on that critical path.
That's awesome. I'm curious when it comes to thinking about things cross chain. Like, is that? I guess that it, like you said, that is a divergence from sort of the voice of like Solana Spaces. I'm curious what the path from there to where you are now looked like. Like, was that just hey, we want to empower creators, and in order to do that, we need to support more things, or like what was sort of the driving factor there?
So the tech is still built on Solana entirely. So it's really a cultural thing for us. Crypto has a way of being incredibly tribal and cultish, and most people are not actually that way. I think the internet kind of brings that out of us, and the algorithm kind of brings that out of us too. Like if you're in Solana, you pretty much only see Solana stuff all day long, and it leads you to believe certain things about the world because that's the only information that you're kind of consuming. So yeah, last year we made a conscious effort to remove Solana from the vocabulary of the Twitter account. We did that around the same time we started taking the word NFT out of our vocabulary and called them collectibles. So
I remember
you'll
that.
see us you'll see us with, if there are, if the Solana main account or there's specific things about Solana, we'll talk about it. But we approach it more like a technology layer rather than the heart of the product and our kind of ecosystem. The big breakthroughs for us are really bringing on cross-chain creators. So a lot of our creators have never created on Solana before. They're coming on board. Some of them have created on other blockchains. Some of them have not created on chain at all. So, again, we're kind of introducing it as okay, well, here's how you're going to get paid, but not as this is about appealing to the Solana community, and it's really is about just the relationship between the creator and their audience and giving them tools to empower that relationship. And
so you don't mean that you're doing collectibles cross chain. You just mean that you're sourcing creators from everywhere. Your tech is still on Solana because that's just what makes sense for distribution and costs and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe my information DAI is also pretty much Solana entirely. So maybe there are other chains that could do it better. But Solana has the most nexus between critical mass of community and tech that's been battle tested and can support us most of the time. So yeah, we haven't really given serious thought to going cross chain.
I like that most of the time caveat.
Just the most of the time caveat.
Yeah, that's new for sure. Maybe the last month or two, but yeah, I we have been interested in maybe seeing people build scaling solutions on top of the Solana base layer that are composable with SVM and whatnot, but we haven't done anything that's not Solana from a technical perspective.
Cool. How do you? Gotcha. I mean, you mentioned having creators from other chains, from off chain. How do you go about sourcing folks, and how do you? I imagine there's a bunch of people that want to be part of DRiP. How do you go about choosing who fits with the DRiP ethos and sort of makes sense to partner with?
Yeah, so creators apply to join DRiP today. They put themselves on a wait list because technically speaking, we want everyone to be able to create on DRiP. All of the constraints that exist around creating right now are because we either lack the tools or the user experience layer needs to be adjusted to account for more creators than we have. We have around 160 live on the platform. We launch one every single day. That's it. And there are around 2,000 creators on the wait list in total at this point. So the list is years and years long. That won't be that way forever. Once we have our studio and kind of onboarding tools in place, we'll be able to support more than one creator per day. In theory, anyone could sign up and start creating on the platform. But we do curate a bit in terms of especially category. So DRiP started very, very art heavy. And we definitely have a lot of product market fit within art. But we've been, we don't want to be pigeonholed as a platform. DRiP is really about, all in one for a creator. It's not supposed to be an art platform specifically. So if you create a music, or you create videos or something that's not our typical creator, you can get fast tracked into DRiP. And besides that, we definitely are looking for long-term Solana creators or long-term creators on chain who understand the business, understand collectibles, know how to talk about their work the way that crypto creators do. So there's a number of factors that go into it. But yeah, the unfortunate reality is that we have just a huge amount of people that we just can't get on board right now. It wasn't like that a year ago. Fair. A year ago, we didn't even have DGen Poet signed up.
I love DGen Poet.
Love DGen Poet. Is that a DGen Poet on your wall right behind you?
That is a DGen Poet on my wall. Yeah. Yes, my house is full of DGen Poets. Yeah.
I've got one directly behind my camera right in front of me on my wall. It was when he did his first round of prints of, I think it's B, like signed and everything. He did like 20, 30 of them. That was cool. Snagged one.
Is that this one?
Yep, that exact one.
Same one?
Yep.
Okay, I got one of these prints.
I love this thing.
Needs to be hung.
Yeah, it's great. I love seeing it every day. One of the things actually, so DGen Poet was already creating on Solana, definitely in blockchain, and a lot of the people that you do have on the platform do seem to have not necessarily a crypto native sort of content creator background, but generally they do seem to be more heavily towards, crypto native kind of vibe. But you did mention that you do have conversations with people that are not already in the blockchain space at all. I'm curious how those conversations go, and what are some of the sticking points that some of those creators have of either pros or cons about doing anything with blockchain. I remember there was, I won't name names, but there was like a creator who is very well known outside of the blockchain space for game assets. And there was a conversation with them, and it went somewhat negative because of some reasons. But I'm curious how those kind of conversations go with those individuals.
Yeah, so I have not had a conversation with someone who hasn't been introduced to me by one of our collectors or creators. So I want to add that context. It's not like I'm out there recruiting people from Instagram.
Yeah, it's not cold outreach, quote unquote. Yeah.
Yeah. So typically by the time I talk to them, they're like, they've gone past the, the base layer of fear that people have when they're thinking about crypto stuff out in the world. Like crypto is a mysterious thing for like 99% of the world's creators, and they mostly associate it with scams or scams pretty much. So I did have a conversation, not with a creator directly, but with a company, the founder of a company that works with a lot of Web2 creators, about 400,000 of them. And they refused to do business with us, not because they didn't like the product, but because they thought that their creators would have a super negative reaction to them even associating with a crypto company. So that I know that's like one side of the spectrum. But mostly when I get to the point of talking to a creator, I would say that's even though we don't share a language about the solution to their problems, we definitely are like the thing that we're trying to do and the problem that we're trying to solve resonates very deeply with creators. Most creators in Web2, they basically are used to just putting work out and not getting rewarded for it at all. Like they've gone through the journey. You talk to an Instagram creator that has 1 million followers or even more. Like I have a friend that has 6 million followers on Instagram, and they'll say, without a doubt, they all say the same thing, which is, hey, I don't understand why I don't make money from this. Like I got to the place that so many creators want to get to, which is like building a real following. And yet not only is there no money, but my audience is like difficult to even get in touch with because the algorithms on these platforms make it hard for people that aren't creating like skit videos or like these very viral, TikTok type content you can't even get to the people that you built a lot of the times. And there's a point of frustration you'll hear from across the spectrum of creators. This is on their top of their mind, other than a very, very the top 0.001% of folks. So once we get to a place where like we both can talk about the problem, which is you make content, you don't make money from it, and your audience is being intermediated by algorithms. Now we can introduce DRiP, which is really about direct to consumer content. It's I think this is really the insight that made me interested in DRiP and building it, which is that on-chain content is direct-to-consumer content. It's the first time on the internet we have a model where I make something and I give it to you directly from me, and there's no one standing in the way of that. And so for DRiPs, the DRiP user experience, although it looks intermediated because we're drawing the UI around it, it's not, right? The content itself is living within the user's control once it's hit their wallet. So I think that kind of framework makes sense. It's like kind of like post-algorithm in a way, or maybe pre-algorithm. Then we talk about like the fan model that we have. So there's kind of content and monetization together, and there's donations, but also the content itself has financial properties because if it gets traded, creator benefits from that. And yeah, like honestly, without a single occasion, like this resonates deeply. Like it really does. I posted the other day about music in particular. I've had a chance to meet a lot of Web2 musicians. Web2 musicians. Okay, they're just musicians. They're not in Web3 yet. You know, like some of them have millions of listeners on Spotify. And yet they look at DRiP and they're like, I get it. This makes sense to me, you know? So we are going to be replatforming a lot of creators for Web2. The one thing is still tough, there is a mental leap that the creator has to take, which is and it's not technical, it's cultural. It's to understand digital ownership. What that means takes a long time because you and I we understand ownership as a metaphor for how a chain that is owned by many people protects these assets, you know, and like keeps them safe and maintains the provenance, all that kind of stuff. Like to get to that point of explaining that to somebody, I mean, you already lost them. So I kind of just don't go there. You know, it's like we kind of stop at like, these are things that have been given to someone that they own. You don't have to know how it works today. You can look into it in your own time. But like the reason that we consider them to be owned is because they can't be changed by somebody else, because there's many, many people who are custodians of the network and who are like kind of maintaining that, the state of those things. But like what I've seen is that creators who come on board from Web2 on DRiP, they don't appreciate the digital ownership, but because they start getting paid and then they see USDC in their wallet and they see people interacting with them, they just get hungry to learn more. And so they'll go out and seek more knowledge about, okay, what's happening here? I don't understand why someone wouldn't just save this picture that I gave them and not pay for it. Why would someone do that, right? But it grows on them. And I think all of us went through that experience at some point with crypto, I believe, where like there's a state of disbelief about it. But without a doubt, what changes people's minds is getting money. As soon as there's like financial something coming to you and you're like, wait a second, this is actually money and I can use it to buy something. Now I'm like interested. I'm listening now, you know, okay, tell me more about this. So I think DRiP gives that moment to creators pretty fast. In the very first drop that you send out, you're going to probably make a couple $100. That's
that entirely based on like droplet donations?
Droplet donations and droplets that are spent when receiving a collectible, because you need droplets on your account to receive things.
Got it. So do you feel like I'm trying to put into words what about that economic model is so beneficial, right? Because you could, you know, in Web2 put out an Instagram post, tell people to Venmo you if they like it, kind of thing, but no one's going to do it. So like what's you know, it's like what is the magic behind DRiP that makes it so that value does end up accruing to the creator? Secondaries totally makes sense. I think we put that aside for a second. I think most people are more familiar with that. But the fact that your sort of donation system and, Droplet, having to spend, droplets for subscriptions works. The fact that that works is, I think, fascinating. And I'd love to maybe understand a little bit more about what's happening there.
Yeah. Okay. What I've come to understand about DRiP is that actually at the root of it, it's not about the content. DRiP is actually the holy grail microtransaction platform. And I think that, and it's effectively a payments platform. And what we have in Web 2 is a huge amount of friction around payments. That's not only to make them, but the fees that are associated for merchants. It kind of creates like this hyper irrational business models around content, around digital goods, where the only thing we have on the internet are abstractions. So I don't buy a movie on Netflix. I subscribe to Netflix, who licenses a catalog of movies. I don't buy a news article. I subscribe to the New York Times or whatever, and I pay them $5 a month, and they get access to that. Or I get it free, but there's ads sitting on the page, and someone's paying for my attention. So we have all these things, and my thesis is that we have these because we don't have a micro transaction layer for that exists on the internet to pay for goods. And so even though for me, listings on Spotify, I probably, I don't know, my kids listen to 20 songs a month or something like that. Cause how kids are, like they're not like discovering new music. They listen to like their same, stupid Baby Bum stuff and whatnot over and over again. So even though I'm only listening to 20 different creators on there, I'm paying $11.99 a month to access this entire catalog. And I don't know if that makes that much sense for me, but it's the only model that's been offered because there's not a way for me to pay 1 penny or half a penny or 1/10 of a penny for something that I'm consuming. So I think DRiP is kind of sitting in between these two worlds where you have enough scale of users that very tiny amounts of money start to add up. But we're also giving a different value prop, which is ownership. I'm not paying a license fee to rent something, right? I'm actually getting the thing that I'm paying for. So the two factors are I can spend a single droplet to get a piece of content that has a par value to me of like 1 cent or less, because we give them for free to people as well. And I don't mind doing that because it's so cheap and it's so easy to do it. And on the other hand, you also change the value prop because I don't feel like the money is going into the void. I'm actually getting something back that in the future, maybe I could give to somebody else, or I could trade or sell, and so on. So I think that those are like, to me, that's the crux of like improving the internet around digital content. Where this goes today, I think we kind of started with this subscription model, and that was like a very new thing. And that kind of had the effect, not intentionally, but it had the effect of like the business kind of moved fast because there was always something else coming that we had to build support for, that the creator was kind of making. But like the leap from, okay, I get that I can donate and get like a piece of art that I can trade, to like, oh, I just paid a cent to get to like buy a movie, and it was like a single droplet, and I clicked it instantly, and I had it in my library. I don't think that leap is that huge to me. So we're kind of starting in the crypto native realm, art and music, but I think that like what we've designed with microtransactions can actually scale to many, many types of content that right now have really inefficient business models built around them on the internet.
That is super interesting. And I must admit, when I asked the question, I was kind of hoping you were going to talk about it as microtransactions. So I'm glad you
Nice.
dug into that. And you brought up a few things that I wasn't necessarily thinking about, but I do think this notion that outside of microtransactions, things are skewed, maybe, right, because of these sort of payment abstractions in Web 2 land, I think is fascinating from an economic perspective, right? Like I think a classical economist is sort of like very focused on like efficiency of markets, and anything that causes friction introduces inefficiency, which is sort of going to skew where value gets accrued. And so I think like it feels like that's kind of what you're describing here is, hey, we actually are creating something that has removed most of that friction. So there's this, in Web 2, there's this sort of asymmetric value accrual that feels very irrational, right? And doesn't make sense given where the value is actually coming from and where it's going. You're saying, hey, with these microtransactions, we feel like the value accrual is more accurate to where the value is actually coming from and where it's going to. Is that fair?
I think so, because I think that I think a lot about what does DRiP look like at scale as a company, and I think we are probably going to be less efficient than some of the big content platforms, simply because the leverage that the traditional platforms have over content creators is enormous. And they basically had 20 years of runway where creators didn't even say anything about the money side, because they were building big audiences and the internet was growing really fast. And there was a little bit less greed. Nowadays, like, we're at maturity of the internet. Pretty much everybody is on. The internet is fast. And there's a lot of zero-sum games kind of happening at the macro level. We need to move forward. We need better business models. I like, it's hard to say that there's a specific inflection point happening, but I just know from talking to creators right now, and I think TikTok may be the catalyst for this. That's like anyone that doesn't make 30-second TikTok videos that are built around the current trends they're just not succeeding at all, and that's creating peak frustration for so many types of creators, including artists, musicians, and so on. But I do think about it at a macro level, because the one thing the one place where I'm very contrarian, maybe, because there are people who've talked about microtransactions, is that I also think that we need an ad model to exist. Because I think if you ask all the people on Earth to pay for content, it would the sum of that money would be far less than the sum that's really that businesses would pay to talk to those audiences. And you can see that at scale on the internet today. Like, the best business models are ad models, without a doubt. There's just way more people, like, the total spend on global advertising relative to the spend on content, they're just leagues apart. So, but the way I see it is that, and you can see it like today with our sponsored collectibles, which have been doing really well, that maybe we can introduce a model that's fair for creators as well, and give something to the people who are kind of consuming those ads. So that's kind of what we've been building. So yeah, the three legs to me are like microtransactions, digital ownership, which is a different value prop for content for users. And the last piece of this is probably reintroducing ads in a way that's less annoying. And those together will spin up, I think, DRiP into a monstrous business if we do it right.
What do less annoying ads look like?
I was just going to ask the same question.
So you can see it on you can see it live on Drip, but I'll give an example of like the Brian Johnson campaign that we did, the Don't Die guy. He created a series of art pieces with DGen Poet, and there was a free collectible claim on the site, and you could get a random piece of art from DGen Poet that he made from Brian Johnson, and then afterwards, you could go and see what he was making. And I think in the future you may like get like unlock a special edition like DGen Poet branded like supplement from him. So like at the end of the day, like the structure of an ad is still always get your attention to go somewhere else, but the hope is that like in the process of doing that, it's fun and you're getting something from it as well. And it's what when we were like structuring campaigns, you can see one running right now, where like owning the collectible that you got from the claim gives you a raffle ticket to win up to 20,000 USDC. So there's always I think there's always a trade there that's going to be made. But then on the back end, we also made a pledge to give 30% of all the revenue from ads back to creators. So we've been doing that today. Nice. In March, the numbers are escaping me. I tweeted it the other day, but I want to say that the sponsors added like $15,000 or $20,000 to the creator payouts in March alone, and that's a values thing. Actually, it's not I don't think the tech is there. Like we don't have to do that, but we want to compete we want creators to put their best work on the platform. We want them to get paid, and so that kind of leads us down a path of like thinking about monetization, not as like how do we eat, but how do all of us together benefit.
Yeah, that's way cool.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing some sort of stat or something on Twitter from you all at DRiP of some like X number of creators are making above $500 a month sort of stat, and it was a surprisingly high number, and I was very impressed and very happy to see, of course, just having like more and more people being able to earn meaningful income online doing something that they're passionate about. Like artists are notoriously passionate about their craft, and like being able to actually do that in a native way to something that feels right to them is just so amazing. It's just like it's just so great watching it unfold.
Yeah, 65% of our creators make more than 1,000 per month. Imagine doing exactly what you're doing right now with the podcast, but you had 1,000 USDC extra every month, 12K a year in your wallet. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's really cool. When Solfate channel, when Solfate drip.
We can do it. We're still behind on progressive streaming for videos, so we don't allow super big files on Drip yet. But yeah, sometime later this year we will.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we've been cooking up some things on the Solfate side. We'll talk after the show and get your thoughts on it. But yeah, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about the user experience of using Drip. So I remember when the sign in with Solana Pay spec shipped, and then Phantom added support for it, and they like pushed the spec forward. Like that was a great user experience improvement for the whole Drip platform and anyone using sign in with Solana. And then you guys are cooking up the mobile app, which is just going to be an even better user experience improvement of anyone who wants to use the platform. I'm curious, is there any details you can share about the mobile app? Like what is the app going to do aside from being able to look at the collectibles you have and make those donations, do the hearting and sharing the droplets with the creators?
It is a fully functional Drip experience. So everything that you can do on the D app today, pretty much, maybe with a few small exceptions, will be available at launch time. So that is like consuming your vault, revealing your collectibles. I don't know if you've seen the new reveal flow that we debuted last week. You'll be able to play Legendary Lock-In. Yeah, claim your droplets. But there's also a couple of new things coming. So one is that it will have integration with Apple Pay and Google Play's commerce as well for droplets, so you'll be able to pay with fiat. And importantly, the design of droplets it's not a token, so it's that's an off-chain to off-chain transaction. It's totally allowed by Google and Apple, which is pretty cool. A big part of what we're excited about are notifications. So there's no notifications today on DRiP. When you get a collectible that you donated to receive, like, you have to go back to DRiP. You have to remember to go back to DRiP and get it. And Phantom and no wallets today allow dApps to trigger native push notifications to users. And that's like a big canvas for us, not only for receiving drops, but also setting notifications proactively, like when a leaderboard is going to end, you'll be able to like click a bell and tell me when this thing's ending, so I can go and make sure I get my droplets in. We're making changes to how you sign in to DRiP holistically, both for mobile and for the dApp. And so you'll be we did select Magic Link to power our embedded wallet. So you'll sign up with a phone number, email. We're going to create a wallet for you, and that will be for everybody on DRiP, including our self-custody wallets. That will be where all of your drops drop into. So think of it as like a staging wallet in a way. In your settings, you'll be able to connect your Phantom wallet or your preferred wallet, and you'll be able to seamlessly move things from your DRiP custodian, your DRiP Magic wallet to your self-custody wallet if you want to access advanced functionality around those collectibles. That link itself between your self-custody and your DRiP wallet, you will actually set up in advance on the dApp. So we're going to have some time frame for everyone to create one of those, connect it to their self-custody wallet before the app launches. And then when you come into the app, it will kind of just work by default. So we have an interest in funding or making transactions from your DRiP wallet to your self-custody wallet gasless. So if you want to secure your collectibles that way, you'll be able to move those things between, or not between, but at least one way. You'll be able to move them out. But your DRiP experience itself will show you a view between both of those two. So everyone will live with two wallets basically. But from a user experience side, it wouldn't feel like that. It would just feel like using an app. You would. The DRiP app also ships with things like background audio. So it's much better for music. You can leave a track playing and it will continue playing even if you close the app, and it has shuffle and other features. Same video. So if you're on an iPhone, it will show you the video in the little pip kind of thing. So it's designed for content. It's it's a wallet that's designed for content. I think everyone's really gonna love it.
It sounds like something I'm gonna love. The primary friction for me as a DRiP user has been that I have to, basically use desktop, and I try to clearly segregate my computer usage to work, and phone is sort of everything else. So having an app for that is going to be fantastic. And I'm probably
you don't have Phantom. You don't have Phantom on your phone.
I do have Phantom on my phone, and the times where I have used DRiP are through the Phantom browser, but it's not. I don't love that. I don't love the in-wallet browser experience generally.
Yeah, it's trash.
So I'm thrilled.
Every wallet is just not good.
I'm thrilled. Basically, what I'm saying is I'm thrilled about being able to use DRiP in a native app. Right. I also, like you said, being able to get notifications about things that matter to me is huge. Because it's I might be really into DRiP for a couple of days and then I just sort of drop off and I don't have a trigger to remind me when to come back at the appropriate time.
For sure.
So that's super cool. I also love Magic. Magic is actually like a client of ours that we've worked with for a while, and so like I'm a big fan of the UX from cloud wallets in general. So that's
it's super easy. Yeah. And it is self custody, technically speaking. Yeah. I don't know if we're going to let you export your private key, but it is, in theory at least, self custody.
Yeah, I can sort of verify that as well. That like, you know, DRiP in this case would have no access to anyone's private keys. Magic doesn't even have access to the private keys. Like it's all sort of stored in like a secure bucket somewhere that only you, the end user, have access to. It's a really neat setup for anyone who's like really technical in the audience. If you want to look at Magic's white paper, it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, for us, we looked at every solution out there doing this today, including building our own. I think we basically decided that build a custodial or like a wallet solution like this, we effectively need like bank level security, and you may even need like money transfer licenses and things like that. And those are things that we weren't really willing to do at this point. So they provide that as a service, and it's pretty expensive, but we're happy about it.
Okay, cool. That's awesome.
I'm curious about we're getting pretty close to time, but I have one more question about the wallet situation with the app. So for existing users that have an account tied to their typical wallet, whatever wallet they're using, like, you know, I pull up mine in my Phantom wallet, the in-app browser, I connect, I have the private key that is stored in, well, in my case, my seed vault on my Saga. But you're saying that whenever this new Magic Link based flow goes live, me as an existing user, I will have to go in on the DRiP site, create the Magic Link, and that will be the new wallet that all of my collectibles will now go to. Correct. And then within DRiP, both the app and the DApp, I will have a button to be able to send it from the Magic Link based wallet to my regular wallet.
Yeah, I don't know if the send button will be there from day one, but that's the intention exactly. So
okay, gotcha. Yeah,
you'll have.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, you will have to have a Magic wallet to receive collectibles from us, and gotcha. They will no longer drop into your self custody wallet by default. This will also be a lifesaver for me because on our customer service efforts, because you will your wallet will start working again.
Yep.
Normally, even if you have. Yeah. Not our fault again. I'm sorry that wallets didn't realize that someday people might own tens of thousands of these things. But but yeah, we are saving people from themselves, and also trying to make the transition path to the mobile app easier.
Is that sort of wallet performance issue the primary reason that all drops will go to the Magic wallet instead of to your self custody wallet?
No, it's because of the mobile app. We expect most people to use the mobile app as their default, and right now we don't have the experience of jumping from apps for wallet verification and whatnot is just not that good. Besides, you shouldn't have to have two apps to use DRiP. You shouldn't have to have DRiP and another wallet. It just doesn't make any sense from a user experience perspective.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with that. Well, that's cool. I personally am very excited about that. Yeah, I definitely want to get on board further with DRiP. Like I'm a subscriber to a few channels, but like I said, the way my brain works is I'm very like out of sight, out of mind. And so once I sort of like lose the habit of checking, then I'm gone. Then I'm gone for a week or two at a time before like something sort of prompts me to come back. So having it on mobile is going to be huge for people like me who just suck at routine, I guess. But I rely on Nick to tell me to do things. So I won't rely on that anymore. I'll rely on notifications.
Same, to be honest.
Hey, this was great. It was great chatting. I'm so thrilled. I'll sort of, last thing I'll say is that I'm thrilled to have seen how much DRiP has grown over the last year. I imagine last time we spoke, you were, maybe I don't know, you didn't tell us exactly how you felt, but I imagine there was some amount of fear about sort of changing from Solana Spaces and pivoting to something new. And you've absolutely crushed it. You and your team, right? Like, I want to give credit to everyone
Definitely
there,
a
but
team.
you guys have crushed it. And the impact you've had on the rest of the ecosystem, not even just the Solana ecosystem, like crypto generally, I think is huge. To have, an application that has had the amount of resonance with a large community in the space, I think is fantastic. Like, DRiP's name will go down in history as sort of a big mover in crypto adoption and in helping people see what is possible in with blockchain technology. So it's awesome to see, man. Thank you.
That's very kind, James.
Yeah, I echo all of that too.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again, Vib, for everything you do here, and the whole DRiP team, of course.
To the listeners, of course, thank you to our listeners for being here, and we'll catch you all next time.
Bye-bye.